I was unaware of this until moments ago. Newcastle United's statement, and this tells us about the club's concerns for their own fans, travelling fans, in Marseille the other night. Of course, Champions League, and Newcastle lost by 2-1 to Olympique Marseille. It goes on to tell us that many fans were put in a lot of jeopardy as they left the stadium. Once the first group of fans was released, the police began using unnecessary and disproportionate force to stop the remainder of our fans from moving any further. This was action through a combination of pepper spray, batons, shields, numerous fans being indiscriminately assaulted by the police. This is not onside. Newcastle fans, I was at Stamford Bridge. They are some of the best travelling fans around.
It's not on if it's right. I mean, ultimately, how foreign authorities police their games, we know they're much more heavy-handed. Having lived in Spain for 25 years, I know that the Guardia Civil and the local police can be very robust. There's part of me that thinks there's something quite right about that because people in society take too many liberties. Now, if they've overstepped, and of course this is another issue with the French governance because we saw that in the Liverpool Champions League final. That was a ticketing issue alongside a policing issue.
Right.
Marseille is an area that's often beset by crime.
Oh, it's a powder keg.
It's a powder keg. So I don't know whether anecdotally, I'm not suggesting this is right, certain Newcastle fans were behaving poorly, or whether it really is a case of overzealous policing.
Yeah.
You do have to recognise that there are cultural differences. Now, if people are being sprayed pepper spray in their face and being hit with batons, there has to be a bloody good reason for it. And if there isn't a bloody good reason for it, then Newcastle are well within their rights to make whatever noise they want to make. Where it's going to take them, I don't know.
Absolutely right, Simon. The club says we will formally raise our concerns with UEFA, with Olympique de Marseille and the French police. The thing is, it's done now. That's it. They've been there. They lost. They're out. The fans are now home. It happened. Fans leaving the stadium, the statement tells us, rightly shared their distress, frustration and anger with our staff. That's Newcastle United staff who were there. And we have subsequently received deeply concerning witness reports from supporters who were in attendance. Let's leave it at that just now. Let's return to this morning. Newcastle fans listening to me this morning, listening to Simon and myself this morning, live in talkSPORT. Did you get caught up in this? What did you witness? And if you want to come on and tell us, then that might give some more weight to the club when it gets to the stage it's going to be in front of UEFA, Olympique Marseille and the French police saying what happened.
My only caveat to this, and I'm not in any shape or form attributing any blame or victim blaming in this instance, is that police forcing in other parts of the world have a zero tolerance policy.
Right.
So what you think you can say to a police officer in this country or what you think you can do in this country is not tolerated in Spain and France and places like that.
I know.
So there is a balance between people being frustrated that maybe got kept in the stadium for an hour after the game that they much didn't like.
Sure.
Then voicing their displeasure and then perhaps getting a little bit clever with police officers and the police officers being a little bit zealous.
Yes.
All of that might have produced an outcome. But Newcastle were within their rights to put UEFA on notice that this is the kind of effect that happens when you put a game at Olympique Marseille Stadium.
Yeah, exactly. Pepper spray, batons, shields. Assault by the police.
Sounds a bit strong.
Sounds very strong. Mal is a big Newcastle fan, and I'm presuming, Mal, you were there, were you?
Yeah, I was there, Jim. Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Thanks for taking me call. First time caller, but I've been a listener for 25 years. Yeah, it was an appalling treatment. I completely agree with the club statement. We followed all the guidelines that the club sent out. The majority of fans didn't wear colours. We were directed to an area in Marseille where we would be safe. Didn't bother going to the port area. They started wanting to get up to the ground. I was in the ground 3.5 hours before kickoff. With nothing to do. So, okay, fair enough. Watch the game. You follow the rules. The problem started afterwards, where I just walked down to the concourse. We knew we were going to be kept in 40 minutes. That wasn't a problem. We knew about it.
Yeah.
So I just walked it down. I just stood up against the line of the. By the way, it was a CRS riot squad. I just stood up against where they were. And once 40 minutes come, you think, oh well, we're going to be let go. But an hour came, an hour and 15 minutes came, and naturally supporters get restless because there was no communication, nothing from nobody. There was only the CRS riot squad there. There was no Marseille staff there. There was no Newcastle stewards there. They were all down on the bottom tier.
Right, just you and the police. Yeah.
Just us in the riot squad. And eventually one or two at the back started, as they do, just get frustrated. and there was a bit of a push. I got pushed up against the. I'm 66-year-old, by the way. I got pushed up against a riot shield. The lad next to me, he mouthed something off to them, and the first reaction was he got sprayed with pepper spray, which caught me. I was blinded for at least a good 5 minutes, and it all started from there.
Right.
And it still didn't let well. It just kept on and on. In the end, I mean, I've got medical issues. And this lad come to me, says, "You're uncomfortable." I said, "Yeah, I am." I said, "I've got a long-term cancer." He says, "Right." He says, so he went and showed one of the police what cancer translated to on their phone, on his phone, and they let us out so I could walk out, get some fresh air. We were standing in sewage, because there was a toilets were overflowing. Nobody from the club came out to stop that. So, and the whole thing was a complete disaster.
Right. Okay. It was a mess from start to finish. It sounds.
It was a mess from start to finish.
Right.
But I think the main problem was once 40 minutes come, and it went an hour and a quarter.
Yeah.
People. I mean, our flight home was delayed by 3 hours because of it. Also, the travel company who I travelled with, who were excellent, they had their way. They wanted to get the buses to and from the centre of town. On the day, the police just rip that up, and you'll do it our way. So instead of getting back into Newcastle at 2:30 in the morning, I got back at 5:30 in the morning.
Right. Okay, Mal. Listen, but plenty of detail in that. Thanks for that. Simon, you can come in this in a second. We're from Sean, another Newcastle fan. Were you there, Sean? If so, what did you witness?
Yeah, morning, gents. Yeah, I'm caught in the melee again. You know, the whole organisation from the Marseille side of the Marseille authorities, it was absolutely shambolic, and we were just treated like wild animals in the concourse when we came out. I mean, all in all, we were in the ground for approximately 7 hours. I think it was around about 7 hours, because we had to go to the ground early. We were ferried onto the metro at 4:30 in the afternoon. And prior to that in town, you know, the locals were fine. There was no trouble.
Yes.
It was just a shame there was a clear lack of black and white.
And Sean, Newcastle United say this morning that time that you had to wait in the stadium at the end, Newcastle say our supporters were in good spirits despite the disappointing result. You lost 2-1. And they waited patiently without incident during the hold-back period. Is that absolutely for sure right? That nobody
did not see any
a lot
trouble.
of grief to the police or anything like that? Yeah.
It was all instigated by the Marseille police. We came out. As the gentleman said before, there was a leaking toilet that was just running and running. We were stood in that. The water was just raised, becoming higher and higher. People... And I was stood around. It was older gentlemen. There was young kids there. There was a young kid on his dad's shoulders crying. And then, naturally, I think it was above 2 hours we were kept back. And you could feel the crowd pushing forward from the
Sean.
back.
All right, Sean, listen, thanks for the call. And a lot of points made there, Simon. It sounds an extremely unsatisfactory.
Well, it sounds unsatisfactory. First, if you pick out the bones from that, first of all, it's about the supervision or the supervising of the Newcastle fans in terms of making sure that there were the correct officials inside the stadium to make sure they're being communicated with so they know what's going on. So the first caller turned around and said that we were expected to be in there for 40 minutes. We were in there for an hour and a half. We weren't communicated with, and we didn't know what was going on. Then people started getting restless, and a couple of people got a little bit lippy with the police. Right? That's what was said in the first call, which means the police have reacted stridently. Now, whether you like that or you don't like it, whether you like the policing in other overseas countries is a little bit irrelevant. If you don't put yourself in the way of it, then you're not going to get yourself in. So it would appear to me that the main issue lies with Olympique Marseille and their failure to communicate as to the reasons why people need to be in a stadium 3.5 hours before, the reasons why there needs to be an hour and a half holdback and the communication not being given to the fans, and the reasons why the facilities aren't fit for purpose for a Champions League game, because you shouldn't have fans penned into a stadium with toilets that are overflowing because they aren't fit for purpose. So if you take all of those things and produce out an outcome, you've got an unsatisfactory set of circumstances. We can't argue, whether we like it or we don't like it, we can't argue about how French police and Spanish police have a zero tolerance policy to what they consider any kind of disobedience or insubordination in an environment that they control. We might not like it, we might not recognise it in our society.
True.
But you cannot walk up to a Spanish police officer and say some of the things that we say to our police in this country, because they won't have it.
They won't have it, and hope to get away with it.
Or a French one in this instance.
We will hear what UEFA say in reply to Newcastle, who are taking their grievances on behalf of their fans this morning to UEFA, to Olympique de Marseille, and to the French police. And in fact, we're on to the French police ourselves, so we'll find out what they've got to say for themselves.